Some of the prisoners knew exactly when the game started, not because anyone told them, not because they could see a clock, not because they were watching anything. They just knew. I spent 6 months trying to understand how that was possible. What I found was stranger than the question. His name is Victor Navarro. He is a politician, or was, before the arrest. He had run for office. He had won, actually. But the results were disputed, then annulled, then he was taken. He is now sitting in a cell he has not left in months. He has no clock. He has limited contact with the outside world. His wife Aurora receives his used clothing from the guards, periodically the only proof he is still alive. She smells his clothes. She says she can tell it is him. And in that cell, in the dark, on certain nights, he hears cheering. Not from a television. There is no television. Not from another prisoner. The cells are designed to prevent that. Through the walls, through the concrete itself, a crowd somewhere above him, erupting, drums rolling, a horn, another wave of noise. Then silence, then again. He understands the rhythm. He knows the pattern. He knows from the sounds alone when a team scores, when the crowd holds its breath, when the game ends. He has become an expert at hearing something he cannot see. And that is the question this documentary starts with. What kind of prison has a basketball game overhead? It is a 3-sided concrete pyramid, but it spirals. Its entire body is a continuous ramp, 4 kilometers long, coiling upward from street level to the sky. If you see it from the air, it looks like something from a science fiction film, something that shouldn't exist. And the story of how it was built is almost as strange as what it became. 1956, Venezuela is flush with oil money. The dictator Marcos Pérez Jiménez wants his country to look like the future. He commissions 3 architects, Pedro Neuberger, Dirk Bornhorst, Jorge Romero Gutierrez, to build something unforgettable on that hill. What they design is this: 300 boutiques, 8 cinemas, a 5-star hotel, a helipad, a performance palace on the 7th floor, and through all of it, running the entire height of the structure, a continuous driving ramp. Cars would enter at street level and spiral upward, past all of it, to the top. They call it El Helicoide, the helix. In 1961, it is exhibited at the Museum of Modern Art in New York City. Not as a curiosity, as a vision. The audience watching this documentary should stop here and ask, what does this have to do with the prisoner hearing basketball? Hold that question, because the building never became what it was supposed to be. The dictator falls in 1958. The developers are investigated. The project freezes. Litigation begins. The money runs out. By 1961, the development firm is bankrupt. The ramps go nowhere. The boutiques were never built. The cinemas were never installed. El Helicoide sits on its hill above Caracas empty. For almost 20 years, the building belongs to no one. Squatters move in nearly 10,000 people, at peak, living inside its concrete bones. They are evicted in the early 1980s. Then the Venezuelan government acquires it, and this is where the building begins its second life, its hidden life. At first, the changes are quiet. Government offices move into the upper floors, administrative agencies, nothing alarming. But the lower floors are different. The lower floors, the deep interior levels, the sections farthest from any natural light begin filling with a different kind of tenant. Nobody announces it publicly. But by 1984, Venezuela's Domestic Intelligence Service has claimed the lower levels of El Helicoide. In 1985, they formalize it with a 15-year lease. The ramps that were supposed to carry shoppers past boutiques now carry a different kind of traffic. The floors where cinemas were supposed to go now hold cells. Most of Venezuela still doesn't know. To the city, El Helicoide is just the strange, unfinished building on the hill. the failed dream. But inside it, the building has become something its architects never designed, a place for prisoners. And over the next 4 decades, as governments change, as protests grow, as Venezuela's political crisis deepens, the transformation continues. The intelligence agency changes names from DISIP to SEBIN, the Bolivarian National Intelligence Service. The building runs out of space. Offices become holding cells, storerooms become interrogation rooms, bathrooms become cages. The building deepens into what it has become, and then in 2022, it gains one more thing. At the very top of El Helicoide's main structure, a new arena is installed, with a basketball court inside. The building that was designed as Venezuela's vision of the future now contains, in its highest point, a sports arena, and in its lowest levels, a prison. Now the building opens a door, and behind that door are people. Victor Navarro is not the only one. There is Javier Tarazona, a human rights defender. He documented abuses for years before being arrested himself. He was brought to El Helicoide. What happened to him inside is documented by the United Nations. Beaten, suffocated with a plastic bag, held in a punishment cell with the lights on continuously 24 hours a day for 45 days. There is Carlos Julio Rojas, a journalist. He was held in solitary confinement for months. Contact with the outside world was completely severed. A visit from a journalists' association was only permitted after 4 months of isolation. There is Rocio San Miguel, a lawyer, an advocate for people's rights. She was arrested in February 2024. She fractured her shoulder at some point during her detention. It went untreated for months. She cannot contact her own lawyer. These are not criminals. They are not people convicted of anything. They are people who criticized the government, people who reported on it, people who ran against it, people who defended others who did. They are inside El Helicoide, not because of what they did, but because of what they represented. And they are not anomalies. Foro Penal, a Venezuelan human rights organization that has spent years documenting political detentions, tracks hundreds of cases just like these, people swept up during protest crackdowns, people who appeared in the wrong news story, people whose names appeared in the wrong document. After the disputed 2024 presidential elections, when Venezuelans took to the streets again in massive numbers, the arrests intensified. Human Rights Watch documented killings, enforced disappearances, and arbitrary detentions in the weeks that followed. Hundreds of people were brought through the gates of facilities like El Helicoide. Some were students, some were teenagers, some had simply filmed something on their phones. There was also a man named Raul Isaías Baduel, not a protester, not a journalist, a former defense minister of Venezuela, a man who had served the Chavez government, helped return Chavez to power after a coup attempt, been celebrated as a hero. Then he broke with the government. He was arrested, brought to El Helicoide. He spent years inside. In 2021, he died. His family says he was denied medical treatment while sick. His son Yosnars, imprisoned alongside him, says he was tortured, hung from walls, electricity applied to his body. His daughter Andrina says, "These places are built to break wills." So what does it actually look like? What is a day inside El Helicoide? Former detainees describe a building designed to disorient. The cells have no natural light. The electricity stays on 24 hours a day, in some sections deliberately so that prisoners lose track of time. Weeks pass without a window. One cell is named Infiernito, Little Hell, 3 meters by 5 meters. New arrivals are placed there first. Another is named after Guantanamo, the UN's independent international fact-finding mission on Venezuela spent years collecting testimony. What they document is a system not random cruelty, but structured, deliberate, methodical, electricity applied to bodies, suffocation with plastic bags, stress positions maintained for hours, sexual violence, isolation for weeks or months at a time, denial of medical care, denial of legal representation. Former detainees describe losing the ability to know what day it was after a few weeks. They describe learning to sleep in shifts because cells were too crowded to lie down simultaneously. They describe meals that were inadequate and irregular. They describe counting sounds to stay oriented in time, and some of them describe something specific, something that becomes, in the context of everything else, almost unbearably strange. On certain nights, there is noise from above. Not always, not predictably. But on game nights, there is a crowd, a hum that travels down through the concrete, a low vibration. Then, at certain moments, a roar, drums, a horn, the unmistakable shape of collective celebration. One former detainee describes lying on the floor of a cell, feeling the vibration of crowd noise through the concrete beneath him. He had not seen daylight in weeks. Above him, people were cheering. He could feel them, but not hear them clearly. He could not shout up to them. He could not explain to them where they were standing. The crowd did not know he was there. They were never asked. OCCRP journalists spent months tracing who actually owns and controls the basketball teams that play at El Helicoide. What they found, the home team, the Pioneros del Ávila, is effectively controlled, according to multiple sources, by the Commander General of the Bolivarian National Police. He was sanctioned by the U.S. Treasury Department after the 2024 elections for harassment and arbitrary detentions. He has a radio program. On one episode, he discussed basketball at El Helicoide with evident pride. The arena itself is named after Helio Estrada Paredes, Commander General of the Bolivarian National Guard. Also sanctioned by the U.S. Treasury Department. Also identified by the United Nations as part of the chain of command responsible for torture inside El Helicoide. His name is above the court. A second team, the Spartans' Distrito capital, is run by Leonel Alberto Garcia Rivas, director of the Elite Special Operations Corps of the Bolivarian National Police. He attends games. His wife throws ceremonial jump balls. Canada sanctioned him in 2025 for his role in human rights violations. The International Basketball Federation FIBA was asked by OCCRP whether this arrangement violated its own human rights policies. FIBA responded that it had no information about potential human rights violations. The games continue. The stands continue to fill. The prisoners are still below, and the families outside the gates are still waiting. Aurora Victor Navarro, wife, still receives his clothing from the guards. She still smells it to know he is alive. The architects imagined cars spiraling up through boutiques and cinemas toward a helipad and open sky. What actually spirals through the building is something else. People arriving in the dark. People processed and placed in cells. People whose families do not know exactly where they are. People lying on concrete floors, feeling the vibration of a crowd above them, counting the sounds to hold on to time. The building is still standing. The ramps go nowhere. The boutiques were never built. The dream collapsed before the building did. And on Saturday nights, in a gymnasium named after a man sanctioned for repression, fireworks go off in orange and gold above it all, and a crowd chants, and a team runs out onto the court, and no one in the stands is asking what is underneath them. They were never asked.